You see Sheriff Herman Jones, Shawnee County District Attorney Chad Taylor coming to the podium. I was trying to see if that was Kyle Smith with the KBI who also walked through. I didn't catch a good look there. You see Chief Ron Miller on your screen to the left of Sheriff Herman Jones, and Sheriff Herman Jones now preparing to update the media on the investigation.
Very tragic event has happened in our community, and we're deeply saddened what has occurred. We wanted to bring you up to date on the information we provided you last night, and what we've learned from this investigation is that shortly after 6 p.m. of last evening, a concerned citizen called the communications center here in Shawnee County and reported a possible drug activity inside of a vehicle that was parked in the parking lot of the grocery store located at Huntoon and Lane. From that, two police department officers, Corporal David Gogian and Officer Jeff Atherley, responded and contacted occupants of a vehicle that matched a description of a Toyota silver and four-door. The officers asked the occupants to step out of the vehicle, and upon doing so, the suspect that was placed in the back seat behind the driver exited the vehicle and shot the first officer. The suspect immediately turned and shot the second officer, and from that then, a third officer immediately returned fire and exchanged fire with the suspect. The suspect then got into the vehicle by himself and drove the Toyota from the scene, driving north on Lane Street. The vehicle was located in the 400 Southwest block of Buchanan, and this was done after an intense police investigation. A search warrant was drawn and served on the location. The suspect was not located at that area. Statements provided by witnesses at the scene on Huntoon and Lane helped law enforcement identify the suspect as David Descarino, 21 years old, of Topeka. Information on the suspect was delivered to the media as well as law enforcement, and a code red was sent out. After midnight, we received a citizen's call providing information that the suspect was located in the 300 block of Southwest Western. After confirming the information, officers from the police department, the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office, established a perimeter around the residence. Due to limited, and I do mean limited, local law enforcement resources in this search of this individual, the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office asked for the assistance from the Kansas Bureau of Investigation high-risk warrant team. And from that then, folks, is where we will turn it over to the Kansas Bureau of Investigation for their assistance.
We were contacted at approximately 2 a.m.
If Sergeant Lamb or anybody from the domestic violence squad is in the building, could you please call 9464? Sergeant Lamb or anybody from the domestic violence squad, 9464.
Kansas Bureau of Investigation was contacted approximately 2 a.m. and our high-risk warrant team was sent out. This is appropriate in these situations due to limited resources, and also since the local law enforcement agencies were the victims involved in this case. A search warrant was obtained. A perimeter had been set up by the police department and the sheriff's office. Our agents engaged in an effort to contact the suspect, both by phone, loudspeaker, use of siren. Two other individuals in the house, which has, I think, 3 apartments in it, did leave. The suspect did not respond. After a certain period of time, gas was deployed into the residence. The suspect then exited the house with a handgun in his hand. It appears from initial investigation that he fired 1 shot. The officers engaged. I believe there were 3 officers from 2 different agencies that responded, and the suspect was shot. He was taken into custody, transported to a local hospital for treatment, and was pronounced dead at that location. The KBI will be conducting investigation of the incident at the house at Western, and the Sheriff's Office will continue to do the investigation at the grocery store. Basically about it. We have identified, as you've all reported, the deceased, the suspect, and we want to thank the media. It was their attention, the amount of coverage that got the phone calls that gave us the location. The cooperation has been great. So thank you very much. The cooperation by the agencies has been great. So we'll proceed from there and take your questions.
Can you tell us about the two people that you said came out? Were they with the suspect or were they completely separate?
Totally unrelated. They just happened to be in an apartment and were woke up by an awful lot of activity.
And he was the only one then in that apartment?
At that time, yes.
And did he live there?
I do not know that.
Talk about the shooting incident at the grocery store. How many people were in the car? And you said the suspect left the area in the car by himself. So what happened to those folks and who were they to him?
Best we can get from that right there, there were...
Thank you, sir.
So where the microphone
The information we have is there were two other occupants of the vehicle. The officers were concentrating on the individuals in the vehicle. They were bringing them out of the vehicle, and at the time of bringing the first two out is when the incident occurred, when the third individual, the suspect, drew fire on the officers there. I don't know for sure of the relationship of the individuals. I think that's very limited there, but that's part of the investigation that we have right now.
Maybe other people that were in the car face charges, or they being investigated for their involvement?
As it stands for right now, that's still part of the investigation. We're trying to sift through the information we need to go with on that.
Was there a drug deal going down?
One at a time, please.
Was there a drug deal going down at the time?
All we know at this particular time, a concerned citizen had reported someone having drug activity. Whether there was some kind of deal going on, not for sure, but I believe it may have just been a simple drug activity.
Sheriff, do you know if there was any communication between the officers and the suspect before the shooting, or did it happen very quickly?
I believe the first two officers did communicate with the vehicles, individuals in the car. Therefore, that's why they were coming out of the vehicle. They were trying to do the investigation. They had received the information of suspicious vehicle, and at that point, they were doing their investigation.
Were the officers wearing protective armor? Did they have Kevlar?
As best I know, that's pretty much the norm for police officers there to wear their protective gear.
How far away from the vehicle were the officers? Were they up close were they up close, or were they some distance?
They were reasonably close because they were talking as if you were making contact with a vehicle, someone inside the car, enough where they can hear in a conversational voice.
Do you have reason to believe that this suspect had anything to do with the shooting last week at Polk, the 800 block of Blue?
That would be under investigation at this particular time.
Can you begin to tell us what it's like to respond to a scene like this when you know that two officers are
You know, officers are trained to respond to these types of incidents. I think it takes it another level when we realize it's one of our own. But at the same time, being the professional, we still carry out what we need to. I think what we really have to look at and focus in on is what happens afterwards, after everything settles down. From all of what we're doing right now, we're very emotional with all of this. No more different than if you had someone in your family. We're saddened by what has happened in Connecticut and family members. That's no different than happens in our community right here. So it will be some time where we can heal from this. Sometimes it brings up old wounds from officers that have passed from similar situations such as this, or just have passed in the line of duty. But we have counselors and individuals that will be working with us, with our officers, and not just with the police department. I mean, that's very vital, but with Topeka Police Department and Shawnee County Sheriffs, we kind of say that we're joined at the hip. We're a family. And then you go beyond, and anyone in a uniform, it becomes that family.
Sheriff, since there was a surviving officer and we have such a clear picture of what happened,
Was this a textbook approach by these two officers? Did the guy in the back seat surprise them? Is there something that you'll change about your procedure because of this, or is there something that could have been done differently?
You know, all of that will be looked at or so. And really, there's really no textbook. The environment always changes. There's nothing. We can always take on some types of procedures that we have. We train the best we have. Obviously, we'll look at this and see what we can, but that'll come out in the investigation, what we need to do for those.
Can you tell us more about the incident, I think you said, somebody said a couple weeks ago, where this same suspect may be a suspect in an earlier shooting?
You know, we've had several incidents or so. Anytime we have an incident, we're always going to look at a suspect of a connection or so. That will play out whether it's in the investigation here. I don't want to make any speculation or those types.
Can you tell us a little more about the involvement of the third officer who returned fire at the suspect? Do you know if there were anyone else, if there was anyone else who came to aid? I'm imagining this grocery store was probably full. Do you have stories yet of people who came and tried to help?
Well, the third officer was responding to this originally, and two other officers were, I would say, were in the area. They took the call. The third officer was responding just about the same time this was going down, if you will. The officers were able to give the information the best they could. That officer was able to render aid. Some of the other responding officers from the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office, Topeka Police Department, then render aid and then start trying to gather what they have and getting the information out to assist with the capture of the suspect.
So were the officers, I'm just trying to understand the timeline, the two officers that were shot, did other officers respond before they had been shot, or were they still able to communicate when other officers got to the scene?
I'm trying to think of the timeline right there. I don't have that right now. I know that the three officers responded pretty close in time frame for that. So you had the two officers there, and then the third officer shows up very shortly after.
Was the suspect hit in that exchange of gunfire?
I don't know that for information. That has to be taken through the investigation there. So.
How many total shots were fired, and what kind of gun did the suspect have?
A lot of that's going to be part of that investigation there, and that'll be revealed through that.
Was the gun he came out of the house at 3rd and Western with, did that appear to be the murder weapon?
I don't know if that has anything. I'm sure that, you know, when we got two different crime scenes or so, that information will have to come out. I believe with KBI doing an investigation that whatever it is, as far as that weapon will be revealed through their investigation.
And when you say drug activity, that could be what? Smoking, snorting?
Possessing, smoking, whatever it is or so. See, we were limited on our information. That's why the officers were sent there to investigate.
Sheriff,
when the suspect came out, did he fire at the officers, or was it one of those going for the suicide by cops where he just in the air? Talk about that over here.
How about we finish with the sheriff first?
Kyle, if there are any more members of the media, if you have any more questions for the sheriff, let's take those now, and then we can bring Kyle back over. We can close.
I was going to ask.
What do you know about the shooter?
What do I know about it?
Has he got a long criminal record, or do you know anything about him?
The best I know, I think the information was given out last night. He does have a criminal history. How extensive, I don't have that information in front of me right now, but he was known to the law enforcement community with his history, though. So.
Sheriff, can you talk a little bit about the incident at 12th and Topeka last night? Is that where the suspect lived? I know that they had a lot of personnel over there.
Sure, and again, that's a good question, because doing an investigation like this, when we got so many resources, or those available resources of law enforcement, we get a lot of information that we're trying to tie down those leads out there. So between the Topeka Police Department, the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office, the FBI, ATF, KBI, KHP, as you can see, a lot of people were involved in that. So you got a lot of information. So when we get information, we're going to investigate. Whether we get information of this individual was spotted somewhere, or he lives here, we're going to check every stone and turn it to see what we can. We were trying to bring this person to justice. This person has injured, harmed, killed a member of this family. We're going to do everything we can to bring that person to justice.
Sheriff, with officer-involved shootings, generally somebody is placed on administrative leave with pay. Have any officers or have Anybody been placed on administrative leave at this time?
A normal protocol that we would do right there is just place the individual on administrative leave, and that has been done with this individual.
Sheriff, do you know if the suspect had any warrants or if any other agency was searching for him? Was he on your radar at all?
I don't know of any other warrants at this particular time. I don't have that information, or so I can say that this individual was known by having a criminal history or so.
Sheriff, I don't want to harp on this point, but I just want to have it correct in my head. The third officer who arrived, did he witness the shooting happening and then responded immediately?
The information that we have there, he was responding as the shooting was occurring. That's why he returned fire.
Do you know how many shots he...
That's a part of the investigation.
And the suspect only fired once at each officer?
That's a part of the investigation as well.
Are you releasing the name of that third officer?
We're not going to release that as part of our protocol for the investigation.
Sheriff, I'm sorry. The other two people that were in the car, were they taken in? Are they arrested as well?
Those individuals were questioned and talked to, just any witnesses, and there were other witnesses as well. So a culmination of people that were at the scene, that information, our officers talked to them as though to gain whatever information they could for this investigation.
How many witnesses did you have with this?
It's a multitude of witnesses there. There were people inside the store. There were residents that saw this went on. There were people that drive. There were a multitude of witnesses there. And as you can understand, that's why this took on so many resources for law enforcement, for detectives and police officers and sheriffs and anyone. It took a lot of resources, folks. I can't say that enough.
Can you guys talk about the memorial fund that's been set up?
Yes, I believe there's going to be you got it. Okay.
The Topeka Police Department has been receiving a large amount of calls from the community and individuals and organizations asking how they can assist fallen officers and their families. The Topeka Police Department Credit Union has set up 2 separate accounts in the names of David Gogian and Jeff Atherley. Anyone wishing to contribute to those funds may do so and can contribute those in a check made payable to the Topeka Police Credit Union. The credit union will split the donations between each fallen officer's family specified on the check if anyone wishes to donate to a specific officer. The checks can be sent to the credit union here at the Law Enforcement Center at 320 South Kansas Avenue. Monday through Friday they're open. Also tonight there is a memorial service, a candlelight vigil that will be at 6 o'clock in front of the Law Enforcement Center for any of those wishing to attend. The funeral arrangements are being coordinated for the fallen officers' families, and that announcement will be made within a couple of days, but we think it'll be toward the end of this week. Support for the families is our primary concern at this point, and would ask everyone to respect their wishes. I should point out that Corporal Gogian was also a military veteran, but before he joined the TPD 8 years ago, he was a reserve officer for us and had been a reserve officer for 13 years. So he was a 50-year-old police officer who had 8 years of experience, but he had 13 years reserve experience before he became a regular officer. And a couple of years ago, he retired from retired his commission with the military here in Kansas. I might also say that the reason most of these questions are being answered by the KBI and the Sheriff's Office is because it involved our officers, and the request was made by me for them to investigate the circumstances surrounding 2 fallen officers and shots fired by the TPD officer on the scene. A lot of this is preliminary. We're trying to get this information to you in a timely fashion, literally within hours of the last press conference so that we can get accurate information out there. But I will say that the investigation is coming together. I will also tell you that the community, the Topeka community, has supported us. I knew in my heart that this community would give this guy up. I told you at the press conference last night, and I told our officers that we will get this person. The object was to bring this person, arrest this person, and put him in jail. This community is very supportive of law enforcement, and they cooperated. We did, as the sheriff pointed out, we did get a call from somebody who tipped us to where this individual was. So also when we got to the scene of that situation, we also asked that the KBI handle the lead part of that investigation over on Western and taking that person into custody for obvious reasons, so we wouldn't have the TPD officers on the front line of that situation. I received a lot of support and calls from the federal government, local, state, county cooperation, and pulled this together pretty fast. Most everybody around here was up all night. Many of you were as well, doing those things. But I'll say that the reason that the TPD is not front and center in this investigation is because our officers are the victim officers, and we had an officer who fired shots. And the sheriff's office, by protocol, conducts our officer-involved shooting investigations. Putting that officer on administrative leave is normal standard protocol. The KBI is involved in it because we needed their assistance in this because our victim officers were the two that were murdered last night. So what we're trying to do is turn this over to them. Ultimately, as I said in the press conference last night, this is not a federal crime. This is a state crime. This will ultimately end up on the desk or in the office of Chad Taylor, the Shawnee County District Attorney, for the proper adjudication of whatever needs to be done here with the remainder of this case, so that he's reviewing all the pieces of it. Who did, which officer did what, who fired shots, where, how many, all those things will be reviewed by the district attorney and the officers on administrative leave.
Chief, how are you feeling about the fact that this individual will not be prosecuted? You're not going to have to go through the prosecution process for this man who took down 2 of your guys.
Well, if I had my way about it, we'd prosecute him to the fullest extent of the law, get that done in the open court, and get that handled in the American system of criminal justice, literally. The way it ended, why he did what he did is only speculation. We can only guess what his motivation was. One of the things that concerns me is that we really don't know why he did what he did. Would have been nice to at least try to figure out what his motivation was. We're not going to know that. So my preference would have been we get this person under arrest and prosecuted in the open court, but that's not going to happen.
Chief, can you tell us a little bit more about the officers? Again, you spoke about them a little bit last night, but if you've had more time to reflect, talk to families.
We have had a chance to talk to their family members today. They were at the hospital. We have had protocol or host officers with them, so that we have people with the family that have worked through some of the arrangements for later on this week for the memorial this evening. There's been an outpouring of sympathy for the police department and these officers. We have received great support from our local elected officials, from the city manager's office, from a variety of community-related entities in Topeka and outside Topeka. I've received, I can't answer the emails fast enough, the condolence emails. I'll get caught up on answering them, and in 3 minutes I'll have 50 more. So, I mean, I guess that's what you would expect, but having not actually had to go through that kind of situation, it's amazing. I finally had to get up and go home and sleep for a little while, because I can't answer all these fast enough to thank the people that are trying to assist us. So both of these officers, it's a big professional family, as you might suspect. Both of these officers were, one was younger than the other. One had 18 months, one had 8 years, but we know that Gogian had another 13 as a reserve officer. So it's a tragedy, but we'll have to piece together all those timelines so we don't say anything that's improper. It's still developing, but I just want to tell you that the community has been marvelous in this case. But that's kind of what we do in America, so that's pretty obvious.
Chief, can you talk about the younger officer who I think it was married? Did he have children? What do you know?
Well, I don't know all of the details or the ins and outs of that at this moment. The marital relationship of the individuals and what their families were and what the status of their families were and that sort of thing. I don't have all of that information at this moment. it might not be as, you might think that unusual that I might not know all that, but then the officers have private lives and they do have individual lives away from here, and so we have to get with the family members to explain some of those relationships, and they're obviously grieving at this point.
Chief, how many officers do you have, and how is the force holding up now, going back out and doing more calls just like the one that they responded to last night?
I met with about, I'd say 60 or so officers last night who were at the Law Enforcement Center. As I said in the press conference last night, unfortunately, this is not the first time that I've had to go through this as a chief, first time in Topeka in this situation, but they're holding up pretty well. I would kind of define them as numb at this point. They're able to do their job. They know what they're supposed to do, and they're able to do it. This takes a while to set in, and it'll take a while. We've offered grief counseling, and we've had the support of Vallejo Behavioral Health here in Topeka. We have a department psychologist on that's a contract firm that we can use, and we've had a lot of support from our chaplains organization. So it's a case of we'll get through this. I assured them of a couple of things when I met with them last night. I said, we will get this guy. We will get him under arrest, and we will get through this. So it's difficult. But you know, I will also say this. There's a lot of people in the United States right now that are grieving a lot of situations that are going on. And so we're really not any different than anybody else. You know, there's a lot of people in this country that are grieving some of the things that have happened over the last several days, and we're just counted among that group, and we wouldn't set ourselves apart or say that we're any more aggrieved by this situation, maybe even just about the same as the rest of the country. So, you know, we'll get through it, and we'll continue doing what we're doing. We've got great support from other law enforcement agencies that have offered to help, and Shawnee County Law Enforcement gets along very well and works well together along with our state and federal partners.
How many officers are on the force?
I'm sorry, there's we're budgeted authorized strength is 300, and we're a little below that right now. That's a budget issue that we have to deal with based on the economy and so forth. So we're a little below authorized strength at this point, but I think we're around, I think we have about 280, but some of those are in training, so we're short, but the council has recognized that issue and has moved to address it as a group. So we'll keep on plugging on replacing personnel and getting them trained up.
Ladies and gentlemen, 1 second here, please. If you would, we're discussing the investigation from last night, and if anybody has any questions for the District Attorney, Chad Taylor, you can ask us at this time.
Chad, the chief did talk a little bit about your involvement, but can you just tell us a little bit more about your involvement at this point?
Yes, basically the role of the District Attorney's Office at this point in time. Last night we were involved in, I'm sorry? Oh. Last night we were involved in the collaboration with our law enforcement partners in obtaining the and procuring this particular search warrants at the multiple locations that were previously discussed. At this point in time, we will work in conjunction with the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office and the Kansas Bureau of Investigation to culminate all of the investigative reports and then basically do the shooting reviews of the officer-involved shootings to determine if those were lawful in defense of self or defense of others. So basically what we'll do right now is continue to work in collaboration to make sure that those investigations get completed and wrapped up and then properly adjudicated.
Do you know if the weapons have located and if so, what it was?
I am not aware of that at this point in time.
How difficult is it when you've got 3 different agencies you're working with?
You know, it is challenging, and what was particularly challenging about this particular situation was in the volume of witnesses, the volume of locations, and obviously one of the great luxuries that I have as the district attorney here is that I have great law enforcement partners in the chief, in the sheriff, in the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, the Highway Patrol, the alphabet soup of federal agencies, and it's pretty much an ego-free environment to where it's all hands on deck. everybody pitches in, and it's that type of collaboration along with the cooperation of the community that allowed us to locate and attempt to bring this gentleman into custody as quickly as occurred last night.
How long could an investigation like this take?
Into the second half of it, with as complicated as this is, as long as it takes. This is a situation to where this investigation originally started out as a potential capital murder case, death penalty eligible, and so it was when you heighten the game to that severity level. Obviously, we want to make sure that we dot every I, cross every T, and make sure that everything is done absolutely appropriately. So it will take as long as it has to be done correctly.
Were there any other suspects or people that were involved with the shooter in that car? I think the sheriff said he was in the back seat. Was anybody else arrested, apprehended, questioned, anything like that?
Yes, I believe the sheriff had previously answered that, and there were individuals who were in the car who were brought in and were questioned.
But you're not foreclosing the possibility that the other two individuals in the car might eventually face a charge of some sort?
I'm not even going to speculate on that. It's way too early on to have that discussion. We've got a lot of work left to do.
And had they...
We were waiting to notify next of kin from this morning's incident. Are we naming the suspect by name officially or not?
Yeah, we've made positive ID and next of kin has been notified. So.
Can you tell us about the shot that was fired by the suspect this morning, whether or not anything or anyone or an animal was hit or anything?
We're not going to discuss the details of the investigation at this time. The location it went to was located, nobody was hurt.
So the suspect was supposed to have only fired one shot this morning?
I'm not going to speculate as to what the investigation shows. We'll wait till we get it done.
Can you clarify? I think when someone was talking earlier, I heard that one shot was fired. Was that the shot from police? We just want to be...
Initial information is one shot was discharged by the suspect. Multiple return fire resulted.
I see what you're saying. Thank you.
Okay, folks, thank you. Members of the media, thank you very much for your presence here today. Any particular comments can be addressed either to the KBI, Shawnee County Sheriff's Office, or Topeka Police Department with their respective PIOs. But once again, we extremely can't say enough how important your involvement and the community's involvement was with this case. Thank you.
And the news conference just concluding at the Law Enforcement Center. Topeka Police Chief Ron Miller, Shawnee County District Attorney Chad Taylor, KBI Assistant Director Kyle Smith, and Shawnee County Sheriff Herman Jones. You see leaving the room right now, updating us on what happened last night and unfolded early this morning, following up on the fatal shootings of two Topeka police officers, Corporal David Gogian and Officer Jeff Atherley. They were killed responding to a call of a suspicious vehicle last night in the parking lot of the Dillons near Washburn and Huntoon and Lane. We're Sheriff Jones revealing that a concerned citizen had called in about possible drug activity in that vehicle. 3 people were in the car. The suspect, David Tiscareno, was in the rear seat behind the driver. He got out, first fired shots at one officer, then at the other. A third officer responded to the scene, returned fire. The suspect fled, and he was found this morning in a home at 3rd and Western and was shot and killed by officers as they were attempting to apprehend him. Authorities revealing that the suspect fired one shot at the officers as he was leaving the house. The officers returned multiple shots. The Kansas Bureau of Investigation handling this portion of the response, but the suspect shot and killed this morning, positively identified now as David Tiscareno. Memorial funds for the 2 officers are set up through the Topeka Police Credit Union. You can send those contributions to 320 South Kansas Avenue, or the Topeka Police Credit Union is in the lobby of the Law Enforcement Center. You can arrive between 9 a.m. 2 p.m. Monday through Friday. Funeral arrangements are still being made. People are working with the families to work through those details. Likely that will happen toward the end of the week. Tonight, though, the Fraternal Order of Police has organized a candlelight vigil for their fallen comrades. That will take place at 6 o'clock tonight at the Law Enforcement Memorial outside the Topeka Law Enforcement Center near 3rd and Kansas downtown. Remember to stay tuned to WIBW.com. We will have complete coverage of this online and also later today on 13 News.